G'day everyone, welcome to today's webinar, and today we're very lucky to have in person Joe Burrill, who's a past student of ours but now is the world's leading website broker on the Flippa platform. What, for 2 years running, isn't it, Bloke?
Yep.
Joe?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
2 years in a row now,
and
unofficially.
And for some of you, you might not know Joe, so we're going to quickly touch on his story, but we do regular interviews with Joe because he's been with us since, what were you saying, 2012?
Yep, 10 years this year.
You started with us when you left uni, starting out as a clerk. Who were you working for then?
Queensland Transport, government.
Okay.
Collect job.
You were pretty keen to quit that job then?
Yeah, it actually set me up quite well, but yeah, they made it nice and easy for me to transition into this full-time entrepreneur role. So.
Buying and selling websites, and so we'll have a look at that. And of course, now you're one of the world's leading website brokers. So what we're really excited about is, just so you all realize, Joe does a laptop lifestyle thing. He doesn't live in Australia anymore. He lives in Sweden with his partner Nat. They have a beautiful little bub now, Leo. They're just over there. So if you hear a baby crying in the background, that is Joe's new addition to their family. But they come out to Australia once a year to visit family and everything. And so Joe's agreed to come around and have a bit of a chat to us face to face and give us all a bit of an update of what's happening out there in the marketplace, because I think it's particularly relevant for those of us in our community who are buying websites or building websites, particularly smaller content sites, because you're going to hear in a minute, this is Joe's specialty and it's a really hot part of the marketplace. So Joe, for you, over the last few years, must have been a pretty interesting time going through COVID, living in Sweden, but also in this website space. What have you seen happen in the buying and selling website space in the last few years?
So specifically in the website space, there was a bit of a concern dip, mostly with like the more content, e-commerce style businesses with the supply chain and everything like that. From my experience, there was very, very little impact to the content businesses in particular. In fact, over this time, if you look back 2 years, multiples actually have just gone up.
Yep.
So, for me, I started my brokerage probably about half a year before COVID actually, the outbreak happened, and I barely noticed. In fact,
wow.
So, that was me personally in my experience, but there were businesses I was representing that did get impacted. But like I said, they were the e-commerce businesses. Yeah,
so Joe specializes generally in selling content sites, like what we teach in our course. And one of the things that you have to mention, Joe, come on, you're being a bit humble there. I know in our previous interview that we did with you, you'd said you'd done over $1 million in website deals. What's that up to now?
Well, it's definitely well over 2 million now. I don't know the exact number, I don't track it because I do some privately. I can tell you that on Flippa it is over 2 million as of today.
Yeah, that is awesome. And you just sold one today, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, one sold this morning for 63K.
Yeah, really cool content site. And what sort of a multiple did that sell on that one?
So four times the yearly profit, which is, what's that, a 48x?
Yep, 48x. So Joe is a legend and this is why I wanted him here to give you guys some insights. Joe is an absolute legend at selling small websites for absolutely phenomenal multiples. Now I'm building you up there, mate. But it's true. Joe, that is Joe's superpower, and that's actually how Joe became a broker, because at one of our events, he got introduced to the CEO of Flippa, and we said to the CEO at the time of Flippa, look, Joe, his superpower is selling these sites. He buys sites, he fixes them up, and then he sells them, basically flips websites. That was always your strategy, wasn't it? Flipping websites.
It was rare that I held a business for more than 1 year.
For more than 1 year, okay. Yep. And that's how you started out. And so because Joe was so good at it, Flippa said to him, well, do you want to become a broker? And the rest is history, as they say, because as you've seen on a number of the interviews on this blog, he's helped a lot of our clients sell some sites for extremely successful outcomes, very high multiples, like Nathan and Alexa's site. That's got to be the legendary one. What was that?
That was probably the most famous one. The multiple, gosh.
Selling curd note.
It was a few years ago now, so it was I think it was like 58x.
58x,
something like that. So it was pretty high out there.
So that was a small site making what, $300 or $400 a month, and I think you sold it for $17,000, didn't you? Yeah. So pretty proud about that one.
Yeah, that was stoked.
And what people don't know, and you don't have to say the sites, but behind the scenes, Joe has sold some of his own sites for very similar multiples. So you've had some phenomenal success you think some of those content sites you've sold over the years, Liz and I have been super impressed.
Yeah, well, I mean, I almost don't want to mention the best one because it was so ridiculous, the result. Like, you can't expect it to be repeated even today. And this was like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, when multiples weren't that high.
It was literally over 100x. And I was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
We can talk about the strategy a little bit if you want that I used to get it that high.
Yep.
Because it resulted in a bidding more. I used Flippa's auction system. Started the auction at $1 with no reserve. So the highest bidder was going to win. And towards the end, they just kept on bidding.
It was a good site.
It was a good site, yeah. And obviously, you know, it was in the tech niche. And it just, both of them really, really wanted it.
Yeah.
And it just went crazy high. And I use this strategy a lot, especially with businesses that are valued under 20K.
Yep.
USD. And it works very well because there's a lot of buyers around that price range.
Yeah, so Joe just shared with our community at a private event that it's a key strategy he uses, and one of the reasons for his success is when he sells his small sites, he doesn't set a reserve. But you better add in, there's a caveat to that though, isn't there?
Of course, you need to, so there's two really.
Yep.
One, obviously the business has to be good. The website has to be well built, no like hidden skeletons or anything like that the comment section can be fired up about. And the other thing is, of course, to make sure all your ducks are in a row, make sure that everything is well listed, documented, and like, you know, your profit and loss statement is clear and it can be backed up with documentation. So if you're saying it's made, you know, $550 in February, then you need to have a screenshot that says this is how it made $550 in February. So, you know, those sorts of things.
You need to have a process. You need to know what you're doing. I think that's what you were saying to our guys. It's not as simple as just throwing it on a Flippa and not setting a reserve and just getting a massive. There's a process to it.
If you do that.
Yeah, you need to know what you're doing, and please understand too. Joe has built up a lot of experience over the years, a lot of momentum behind what he does on the Flippa platform. And so he's got a lot of buyers as well that follow him. So when he lists a website for sale on there, especially if it's in that sweet spot, because your sweet spot is selling these small, what we call relatively smaller sites, up to what, 50K?
You know, yeah, basically my sweet spot is typically between the valuation of 10,000 to say 50,000 USD.
And the market's hot for those, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, lots and lots of buyers around that price range.
Yeah, so that's pretty easy. And so it wasn't always like that, was it? When taking you back 10 years, it is literally 10 years ago, 2012. It was probably around the same time. I think we used to do the intakes into the Legends program in March back then.
Yeah, I think.
Now we do it in August, but yeah, so it's probably like spot on the anniversary of you coming onto our program. But when you started out, how did you get started? You did this all part-time, obviously you were working full-time at the time?
Yep, so I did it on the side. I started with a nest egg of 10,000-ish dollars AUD and just was using that to help me start the process. My focus was mostly on flipping, so I would buy and hold for, like we said earlier, about a year and then sell them.
So we should throw in a definition there. So Liz and I are all about generally, and I know most of us in this community are all about long-term buy and hold of websites. Website flipping is where you buy websites, do what Joe's talking about, renovate them pretty quick and simple, and then sell them relatively quickly, like within 12 months or so.
Yeah.
And you just you were hugely successful at it.
Yeah, I just did that a few times, and eventually the deals just got a bit bigger.
Yeah.
Basically just doing the same thing.
Yep. So do you remember some of your first sort of flips, just even roughly, like what sort of numbers, like you buy a website, what were you buying websites for back then? Around $1,000?
Yeah, so the first few were around 1,000, and towards the end I was buying them still for, between 5 and 10K.
5 and 10,000.
So they were definitely smaller ones. These days it's a bit harder to find a good deal around that price range because there's so many more buyers.
Yep.
But
so now you got to pay the higher price in order to get the good ones.
Yeah. Yep.
Especially if they're listed with you.
Yeah. Exactly.
You got to be prepared to pay a lot more. And in all standard niches, always content sites, weren't they?
Yeah. I never did any ecom businesses.
Yeah. So we
don't
teach that.
I do broker ecom businesses occasionally. So.
Yeah. And then how did you find, I know a lot of people ask, how did you actually quit your job to do this full time? Like what was the process? Did you just quit it suddenly one day?
No, so working for the government, they made it pretty easy. I could, when I first started the course, I dropped down to 4 days a week. Mm-hmm. And then as the business started to get a bit better, I dropped down to 3 days a week, and then I quit. It was in 2015 I quit, so it took me 3 years.
3 years. Okay, so 3 years to quit. There you go.
Yeah.
And one of the things that always stood out to me that I was really impressed with, and I remember when I was coaching you, we teach a lot of mindset. Like, you remember that around the goal setting and everything. And what Joe did is he really dialed that in. He followed exactly what we said and set these goals. And what I love about you is you would talk to me and go, Matt, I've set this goal, and you'd show me the goals, and then he would just be ticking them off. You'd make it. And sometimes they took a bit longer though, didn't they? It was long, 3 years. It all sounds easy. It rolls off the tip of the tongue. It sounds cool. Joe looks like this dead set legend and everything. But I remember at the time, that's frustrations. You wanted it to go a lot quicker than 3 years.
Well, I remember the very first number in that very first seminar was 4K per month profit. And that was a goal for a very, very, very long time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't achieve it for quite a long time. In fact, fairly recently, we just sort of asked, maybe 3 years ago or something.
Yeah.
So for me, because I was constantly flipping them, the kept on getting close and then dropping back down and stuff.
So you're getting the passive income up, mm-hmm. and that passive income goal, and that's a great idea, setting out your first passive income goal. So I think one of the things we set as a benchmark for everyone is that your first $1,000 a month, and then you might start stepping it up to like $3,000 a month or $5,000 a month. And it's interesting, a lot of people who we speak to have been doing this for a while, they all say that their first kind of initial passive income goal off this was around that $3,000 to $4,000 a month, because it's kind of, that's the financial freedom number for a lot of people.
You're not really working that amount. Exactly, that was my thought. Like, what can I live on without needing to do anything?
So for you realised you could live off $3,000 to $4,000 a month pretty comfortably.
Yep.
And so, and then through flipping these sites, and you did have some amazing successes. Like I remember one of them you sold. I think it was $8,000. It was $8,000. I think you sold it for, and you were pretty happy about that because it was a lot of money to you back then.
Yeah. Well, of course. And I mean, if I buy a site for $1,000 and I sell it for $8,000.
Yep.
Plus all the profit in between, that's pretty good.
So now fast forwarding to today. For you, you're like us. It's like, $8,000. Wow, that's just normal. You're selling sites for that all the time.
8K would be a small business.
Yeah.
For me, to broker. Yeah.
And what's happening out there in the market, Joe, in terms of monetizing sites? What are some of the cool tips that you've seen work really well for people that, because your specialty and your own personal background is flipping websites, doing it pretty quickly? Mm-hmm. You shared earlier with our community a couple of little. A cool little strategy that you've noticed, or a food for thought type thing, depending on your strategy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if your plan is to build or buy and then sell it quickly, a strategy that can be thought about is leaving some room for opportunity, some room for growth, so that when you do go to sell it, the buyers are going to see, it could be earning so much more, and occasionally they will overestimate how much that potential is and give you more as a result of that. So as an example would be, say you build a Amazon affiliate business, mm-hmm.
That's
monetized with Amazon Associates, and then don't put AdSense on there, and you're only using that one monetization method. Mm-hmm. You sell that on for, typically they will sell for higher multiples, because it's very easy to just put AdSense on there and 20% the revenue, 20% more the revenue just overnight, basically. Obviously, that's not always going to be the case. This is not like a surefire way, which is why it's like, well, if you're prioritizing user experience over profit, then you wouldn't put AdSense on there, for example, because then you're just cluttering the page and stuff like that. But if you're trying to make a return, you want profit, putting that AdSense on there, and as an investor or the buyer is probably buying the business for an investment, and they're trying to make their money back quicker. And so having that opportunity growth option there for them, that super quick, easy win, can mean that the multiple gets super high.
So that's something that you've observed. Doing all these deals, like lots of deals, guys, is really important advice. And is why you need to speak to brokers and particularly like someone like Joe, if you're selling a small site, well, how can I maximize the sale price? So what Joe's saying, if you think you're going to do a quick flip like what he used to do, then just monetize it. You've noticed if they're just monetized purely with Amazon affiliate offers, like just not
or just AdSense,
or just AdSense. So one monetization method, you've noticed they tend to get much higher multiples.
Yeah. The other thing about those is that they are simpler. They're just simple.
There you go.
You know, like
that's
it's easy
true.
to take over.
It's
You've
easy.
only got one set of things to transfer over.
So from a buyer's point of view, they go, "This is cool. I can buy this thing. Doesn't matter what the multiple is. At least I know I can fix it."
Beginner friendly as well.
Yeah, beginner friendly. So that's a really cool tip. But on the other hand, if you're someone like our typical clients who are holding these for assets, what you would be recommending? Stick both monetization methods on there.
Obviously,
what's your thoughts there?
So obviously, if you're going to hold it for a long period of time, you want to be making as much money as you can from the content and the traffic you're getting.
Yep.
So you should be putting AdSense on there.
In addition to Amazon affiliate.
Of course. Yeah, you want to maximize your profits. And to be honest, in most cases, that's also a good approach when you're going to sell it as well. So I will often tell clients that, you know, if I can see that it's very, very under-monetized, then I'll say, maybe you should work on it a bit more, add some things, and then come back to me in a few months when the profit's higher.
So would that be one of the quick turnarounds that you do for people to get their sites ready for sale? If you think depending on the situation, I know it depends on the situation, but you've seen that before. But you've seen it work well. Just stick AdSense on here and it.
Yeah. So I mean, there was one example where it was just so clearly under-monetized. You know, there were articles, literally full review articles about products that were getting traffic that weren't even linking through to Amazon. And I'm just like,
oh wow,
come on. So, you know, you can fix that and then we'll, you know. So, I mean, that's more of the obvious stuff. And you can still come across those for sale even.
Yeah.
You know, if this person, instead of coming to me, just listed it themselves, well, that's something that anyone can pick up.
Yeah.
So they're out there.
Yeah, the deals are out there. And in terms of, like for this community, the most standard fix-ups that, you know, we recommend but I just want to hear it from you is, you know, content. What's your thoughts around there?
Building more content.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, other than the obvious of just building more content, going through what content's on there and auditing it, matching up the articles, popular articles with the Google Analytics, and just seeing which ones are performing well. Sometimes you can combine articles and increase the traffic on the ones that are performing well pretty quickly and easily.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and then it's just adding ongoing content. And when you look across all these sites for listing them, you obviously see all their expenses. 9 times out of 10, it's just content.
If it's a content site, the main expense is always going to be content.
Yeah, so
unless they're writing it themselves.
Okay. Well, now there's a trick.
Zero.
you need to ask the seller about that. That's a really good website due diligence thing that you need to check out. Is you know, where are they getting their content from? So content's super, super important. And I mean, you're like us. We love content websites. But now that you've been a broker and you know, you sell a lot, and I know you do sell e-commerce sites as well. What's your thoughts going forward into the future content sites? Still your preferred?
Well, I mean, if the trend continues, it's just going to keep going up and up and up until it matches traditional businesses.
Yep.
Maybe even beyond that. Although it's difficult to see. No one has a crystal ball. But I know that there are content sites have always sold more than e-com businesses will. You know, the small scale. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's a good point. And so anyone starting out, you would say stick to the basics, just like content sites.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what you teach is pretty much spot on. I mean, that's my experience. So, you know, of course, that's what I'm going to recommend and what I would comfortably. Easier to run than e-commerce businesses as well.
Yeah, or drop shipping and
there's less headaches and you don't have to worry about advertising campaigns. It's all natural. And
In terms of the marketplace, like the multiples that you're seeing now too, what's your standard multiple that you're selling websites for?
So for content sites, we're looking. Obviously, it depends greatly on the quality of the business. But assuming just a basic average quality, we're looking at between 25 and 35 x the monthly profit. That's monthly. Yearly, just multiply that or divide by 12. that's essentially what you'd be looking at.
Yeah.
You know, the one that I mentioned earlier, that sold earlier today, sold for 48x.
That's because it was sold through Joe.
It was
You're a legend. You're a legend at selling.
It's a
them
good
for
business
really
as well.
high.
So
yeah, it is a very good
helps.
business. By the way, when I looked at it, my first comment to you when you told me that was, "Oh wow, the buyer actually got a good deal on that too. That's a good site."
Yeah, of course. And like
that's
it had diverse revenue streams. It had good traffic. It was in a good niche. You know, it ticked many boxes.
Yeah, I think for both the seller and the buyer, that was a really nice outcome on that particular listing. And it was a great niche that, yeah, like you said, ticked all the boxes. So that's the sort of thing you're looking for.
Yes.
And the final big tip for everyone, Joe, when you were talking about if you think you're going to be flipping websites and you are going to sell, and you know you're selling a content site, what was the big tip that you would give to everyone? One of the key strategies
to sell a content site. I forgot.
You were telling our community, bring on the writer as well.
Oh yes, yes, of course.
Line up maybe the writer to come with it, because that's always been your key strategy ever since when you first started with us. Remember, that's how you've always done it.
So the easier you can make it for the buyer to take over the business, anything you can think of to make it easier for the buyer is going to increase the amount that you sell it for. So that could be increased support. It could be, like an example that I gave in the private community was if you offer 10 articles or a month's worth of articles, just to make sure that they have that first period of managing the business sorted, and then they can take over it once they're comfortable and they can see the money's coming in, etc. But yes, of course, like if you're selling a content site, one of the things you need is content. If the buyer has to then go and find a content writer, that is a barrier to being able to operate the business. So obviously it's harder if you're the one writing the content. But you, like I said, you can then do the whole, I'll offer you 10 articles as a bonus.
So adding massive value to the sale process by providing ongoing content for the potential buyer. And guys, that's why I want to say to you, and this is why I wanted to get Joe back in here to give this update. I think hopefully you can see that's the importance or the power of using a broker like Joe, who's a legend at doing this. He knows all the best strategies for getting maximum sale price for websites, particularly in that sweet spot of like up to 50k or even up to 100k. It is a hot market at the moment for content sites in that space. So if you're thinking of buying or but particularly selling a website in that space and you want to speak to a great broker, speak to the world's best here, Joe Burrill. And how can people contact you, Joe, if they want to get hold of you?
So the easiest way is to just go to my brokering website, which is justwebsitebrokerage.com. And there is, if you've got a website you want to sell, I sell businesses that are basically $300 per month profit on average. Those ones
and above.
And above, of course.
That's your minimum size.
That's my minimum size.
We need to say that. Come on.
If you're a buyer and you're interested in, seeing what I have for sale, I have a list that you can join as well on the website. You can sign up there. I don't sell all of the businesses I list on Flippa, so you'll also get access to the ones that I sell privately through the list.
So it might be an alternative way to find some great private website deals as well. So thank you so much, Joe, for coming on today. We'll put those links to Joe's website brokerage below the video and below this interview. But thanks so much for coming along today to share some insights with our audience about buying and selling websites.
You got it. My pleasure.
No worries.
Happy to help.